Welcome back to the latest Manchester United news. Let's talk about the striker position and what are the latest options. So, does Manchester United only look for a primary striker, or does it have secondary options as well, or does it possibly even go for two strikers? But before we start looking at the options, let's see what the incumbent striker has to say, and that striker is Rasmus Højlund. So, Rasmus recently played a match for Denmark on the international stage, and this is, I think he started the game and then he was replaced, but he didn't get good reviews from the Danish media, who questioned his performance and were questioning whether he should actually even play for them or possibly even come off the bench. So this is what Rasmus had to say after the match when asked about where he sees himself playing next season, whether it's at Manchester United or elsewhere. And this is what he said: I have a contract until 2030, so I expect to play for Manchester United. I'm looking forward to going on a summer vacation, and then I'm fully dedicated to the project that's underway. I know I can't get much out of reading things. I know what the facts are, and that is that I have a contract. I expect to play there, so I'm just getting ready for some summer vacation and then hopefully a good preseason. Yeah, I guess Manchester United haven't spoken with him and told him that there's a possibility that he might be playing elsewhere or that he might have to find another club. I think Ruben has never had an issue with his professionalism, so that's why this is a conversation which has probably never been had. But I but the way Ruben has been going about improving the front three, it sure looks like he went for the left 10 and then the right 10, and then the next step is to get a new striker. So possibly maybe he has spoken with Rasmus and told him that maybe you can stay but possibly as a backup striker, or maybe Ruben is just waiting for the strikers to come in and then possibly have a word with Rasmus about his potential playing time, and if he wants to play for the in the World Cup, it's probably good that he heads out and finds another club, either as a loan or possibly as a full sale. But let's see what happens. I think the more clarity will happen when the preseason practice starts, and whether he is there or whether they kind of ease him into the preseason games, possibly to keep him injury free so that you can send him out on loan or possibly on a sale. But there was some news on the main target, which now the more this goes on, it looks like it's Victor Gyokeres. I don't see Victor Gyokeres being linked to anybody else, and nobody else is putting in a transfer fee or proposal to Sporting CP. So I think the more people are waiting, the more it sounds like only Manchester United have his undivided attention, because I just don't see any other teams being linked to Victor Gyokeres. So this is what Fabrizio had to say. So Manchester United had more contacts with all parties involved in the Victor Gyokeres deal this week to understand how the situation is developing. United are informed on every step of the story, as they are aware of Italian clubs exploring the situation. There's a possibility of he going to Italy, but he actually has a release clause which is in the 80 million euro range, but then he has a gentleman's agreement with Sporting to be let go at around 60 million or so. And I don't think the Italian clubs are going to come in and pay so much for a striker. And that's why you are getting all these links for Rasmus Højlund from Inter or Juventus, who are trying to get Rasmus on a cheap because they know they can't go for Victor. And so Victor might go to Man United, and then that might give them an option of getting Rasmus out of there. But who knows? But it sounds like they have just asked Victor to stay put, and that just wait for some time, because I think I think in the next few weeks, or once the window reopens and some of the outgoings do go out, then we should possibly hear more. So this is some more things what Fabrizio had to say, and this is very interesting because here he's actually talking about Arsenal, and Arsenal were one of the main competitors for his services, but it looks like they are heading elsewhere for their striker needs. So this is what he said. It's important to say that at the moment, the other situation on the Arsenal side, Victor Gyokeres, the situation is not developing. Arsenal are focused on Benjamin Sesko, discussing and advancing for Benjamin Sesko. And with respect to Victor Gyokeres, I'm not aware of any official bid from Arsenal or any sort of agreement. So I think they've just given up because possibly Victor has told them that he is not interested, or maybe it's possible that they don't think he suits their system. Because I mean, it's the more you see Arteta, he's quite picky about who he wants on his team, and especially at different positions. So maybe his mind was set up on Sesko, and they haven't approached Victor Gyokeres. But hey, that's good news for us because who else has the money? So the only other options are Chelsea, but Chelsea have already gotten Liam Delap, and I don't think they are as keen on Victor as Manchester United. I think they are going for Ekitike, but and then the only other team in the Premier League would possibly need a striker is Liverpool, but they have Darwin Núñez, and they won't get a replacement until he goes. So I think this is Man United's deal to lose, but let's see. This is what Fabrizio also said, that the money Manchester United would have got with Champions League football was likely going to facilitate a deal for Victor Gyokeres, but the Europa League final kills said possibility. Financially, it's more complicated now. I mean, that makes sense. No Champions League, no lump sum payments. No, I mean, you can't even entice the player to that you're going to play in Europe, but so you actually have to wait for the sales to go through, and plus the front three positions, there are only 3 positions, but it's so crowded. You need to get like 3 or 4 out of there before you can even consider getting him. I mean, not just for a money perspective, but even for, you don't want to be stuck with so many players in for a limited number of positions, because then you just can't train with that many people. So I think they have had conversation, I'm pretty sure. Otherwise this doesn't make sense. There's no way Victor is sitting at home just twiddling his thumbs and waiting for something to happen and not taking any initiative. I think he's gotten a clear signal that this is going to happen. And yeah, also Fabrizio did mention that the potential exits of Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Alejandro Garnacho are crucial to any deal involving Victor Gyokeres. The potential transfer is seen as a difficult one, but Manchester United are continually in contact with his camp. So I think the more we wait for the sales, the more information will come out about what's going on in the background, until there's any inclination that because the biggest problem is you cannot go get Gyokeres and then have these players also on the wage bill, and then when you have to sell them, the other clubs know that you're desperate, that you have to get them out, and thus they can get a cheap deal. So that's why they're probably waiting for the sales to go through and then go for Gyokeres. And still there's a lot of time. Do you need Gyokeres for the preseason? In my opinion, no. I'm okay with him missing some of the preseason or even showing up for the last few games at Old Trafford before the season starts. I just want it done. So I'm okay if he's not there, because he's already played in Ruben's system. So I don't think it should be such a big jump that he'll be lost for the first few weeks of the season and he won't be able to adjust. But let's see what happens. So the second name which has been linked with Manchester United, but he's also been linked with other clubs, but not very seriously, because a lot of people thought that his main destination would be Saudi Arabia, and that's Victor Osimhen. So until till yesterday, everybody thought that Victor would be going to Saudi Arabia and that there's no way that he would settle for any club in Europe, mainly because they wouldn't be able to meet his wage demands. Because right now, I think he's on crazy wages at Napoli, even though he's not playing for Napoli. And Napoli made that deal because they wanted to sign him on a new contract and put a higher release clause. But once they put such a high release clause, they realized that I think it was in the hundreds. And it became so high that no club was even going to come for him. But they were stuck. Now they had given him improved wages, and then they had these issues, and then he left the club, and they need to get him out. But does Victor need to get out? No, because he's already on really high wages. I think it was 12 million net or something of that sort. So he's not in a hurry to either go to Saudi or to go to any other club in Europe, because he knows he's getting it by Napoli, and that's the mistake Napoli did, and they are trying to get rid of him because because they thought they could get a lot of money for him, but the longer they are holding on to him, the more they are paying him out, and they are not being able to find a suitable buyer. But this is partly because also Napoli is being pretty selfish, because if I remember correctly, Osimhen had personal terms agreed with PSG. So everything was fine with PSG, but then when PSG went to negotiate with Napoli on a transfer fee, Napoli wouldn't accept it, and that deal fell through. And so I think I'm not sure, I'm guessing here, I think this pissed off Victor, because then Napoli said, oh, we can just sell him to Saudi will pay us good money, and they tried negotiating and they were not happy with, and I think this pissed off Victor, because Victor was already not happy with Napoli because they had some incidents when back when he was playing for them, even with the social media team. So I think he is just messing with them, because maybe he just runs out his contract and then goes through the Bosman rule and just goes as a free agent. But I mean, it just doesn't make sense, because there's a club which is Al Hilal. They are desperate, absolutely desperate. Okay, so if you are a player out there who wants a lot of money, you would get in contact with Al Hilal and advertise your services, because you are possibly going to get a big contract. So they first tried for Salah, that didn't work. Then they tried for Bruno, that didn't work. Now it's the 9th of June. The 10th is when the window closes, and then the 14th is when the Club World Cup starts. So they absolutely have to get a player over the line. And so they have been negotiating with Victor Osimhen. They increased his yearly wage demands. I think it went from 35 to 40 and possibly 45. I'm not sure on these numbers, but to reject such a high proposal, I mean, that's crazy, because it kind of indicates that I don't think he was ever ready to go. He just wanted to see how high they would go. I think he wants to stay in Europe. He's already getting paid really well by Napoli. So what are his options? So does he go to the Premier League? He can go to the Premier League, but so what are his options? Arsenal's not going to take him, because I think Arteta's stuck on Benjamin Sesko. Chelsea really want him, but they won't accept his wage demands, and he won't accept their wage structure. So then the only option is Manchester United, and I don't think Manchester United are in a position to pay so much and get him and then put him on such a high salary. I mean, they are having trouble getting rid of players already on high salaries, so they won't get another so-called problem into their fold. So I don't know where he goes. I just don't know where. Maybe he goes back to PSG, and maybe Napoli reduces their demands, because PSG has Kolo Muani, who was sent out on loan, I think, to Juventus in January. So that's one striker they are possibly going to get rid of. Gonzalo Ramos has been presented to other clubs so that they can sell him as well. So I think they need a striker, and who else would be a perfect fit for them than Victor Osimhen? So I mean, I would love him to come to Manchester United, but I just don't see that happening. I just don't see, the wage demands are just too much, and just Manchester United don't need. I mean, so don't need a sure shot at such high price level. So I'm just glad that I'm just curious also to see where he goes. But let's see. But this is what the news which came out. So this is what Ben Jacobs had to say. So Victor Osimhen has turned down Al Hilal. Travel and medical were scheduled to complete the deal in time for the Club World Cup, and a 75 million euro package in place with Napoli. However, Osimhen has formally rejected Hilal's offer. Yeah, so basically the clubs had decided the transfer fee, but I think Victor pulled out in the last minute, and this is also what he says. Victor Osimhen's Al Hilal rejection makes his future an open race. European suitors had felt for months that Saudi was his most likely destination. Al Hilal made multiple offers, and Simone Inzaghi was even part of the pitch. He's the new coach. He moved from Inter to Al Hilal over the last week. However, no green light despite a 75 million package in place with Napoli. Al Hilal insisted Osimhen give them an answer before the Club World Cup. Galatasaray are still trying to sign Osimhen permanently, and Juventus retain an interest. Yeah, I don't think Galatasaray and Juventus can afford him. I think he went to Galatasaray because they were at the end of the previous transfer window and he had no other option, and he was not going to go back to Napoli and play for them, so he had to go somewhere, and that's where he went. So I think I just don't know. Maybe he waits it out again and they get desperate and send him out on another loan. But so Victor Gyokeres and Osimhen was looking for including Chelsea, who tried last summer, but with Saudi off the table, Osimhen is going to now assess all options and take his time. Assess all options and take them. So I don't think he was very particular of playing in this Club World Cup, so he's probably just going to rest and then wait for. I mean, this is again with the club. Napoli doesn't have many cards, and they'll probably be trying to push him to PSG now, because they are the only team which in Europe can afford his wages and possibly give them a decent transfer fee. But yeah, I just don't see Victor Osimhen coming to Manchester United. There's no way. So plus, does Manchester United even go for two strikers? If they do, that's what they wanted to do initially when they went for Liam Delap, so that they could get one over the line and then later on work on the Victor Gyokeres deal. So possibly now with Liam not in the picture, so they'll go for Gyokeres and then they might go for another striker as well and then send out Rasmus Højlund. So this was the third name which was being mentioned. I don't know how serious it is, but let's see. So this is a striker from Porto, Samu Agehowa. I hope I've gotten his name correctly. If you're a Manchester United fan, you probably saw him play because he played for Porto against Manchester United in the Europa League. He actually scored 2 goals, and he looked good. I'll confess that I haven't watched many of Porto's games, but in that game he looked pretty good. They actually took him out. They were leading 3-2 and then they took him out, and then Manchester United got control of the game again and were able to equalize in the end. So, but the crazy thing is, this guy has an 84 million pound release clause. I mean, just there is no way. I don't know why and plus Porto wants to get rid of him because they don't have Europe next year. but they want this release clause. There's no way Manchester United can even afford this. Actually, this is much more than what Victor Gyokeres is being where his potential transfer price is going to be. So I just don't see how this is even possible. There's no way you can get this and Victor Gyokeres. Or maybe if Victor Gyokeres doesn't work, do you go for this? I still don't think you go for this. I think you might. Looking at Ineos, I think they might hold on to Rasmus and keep Chido and possibly tell them, hey, you guys are in competition now, and so work it out, because there's no way you can go for this, because once the 2 10s are in, I think they might go for the midfielder next, and once you have outlaid at least 60 and 60, and then for a midfielder maybe 40, that's what, 120, 160. I mean, how much more money can you keep spending? So I mean, I think this is out, because there's no chance it happens. Plus, do you want a striker? I think he's only 24 years old. Do you want a young striker who's done well, but he's still a project? I mean, that's what Rasmus is. So I mean, that's a lot of risk you're taking, and it's not worth it, because you need somebody who's certified, and that's what Victor Gyokeres is. Victor Gyokeres comes in with a certificate saying, hey, this is how many goals I scored in the Portuguese league, but I also played in the Champions League and I scored well as there. I think that's a risk worth taking, but this one possibly not. And I don't see this happening. I don't see him going anywhere for that amount. I don't think any English club is going to pay for that. And this is another situation where before all these clubs started caring about PSR, that these kind of crazy fees I don't think are going to be paid out anymore. I know Florian Wirtz is going for 100+ million, but that's because Liverpool didn't have any signings over the last transfer window, so they are just going all out and putting all the eggs in that one basket. But this guy, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but he's good. He played really well against us. He was giving our back line a lot of problems. Actually, his 2 goals, he was able to muscle out Matthias de Ligt both in a header, and he was able to get in front of Matthias and slot it in with his right foot. Perfect, especially against a low block. He would be ideal, but he's like a Victor Osimhen younger version, but we can't afford the established version. There's no way we are going to afford the new version. So hey, who knows where we end up. But I think Victor Gyokeres is a deal which will happen in the background, and then these other striker options, I don't think any of them will work out, but we have to get one, because Amorim is desperate to make Manchester United more of an attacking threat, because we have finished with negative goal difference the past 2 years. I think did we finish with a negative difference in his first year when we finished third? Possibly not. Maybe just 1 or 2, plus 1 or 2. But just give him what he needs. That's all I care about. Just get some of the signings in for preseason. I don't care if they're not there for preseason. I know the manager would like them to be there for preseason, but if that's not the case, just give him something, but definitely get him everything by the end of the preseason so that he can get going, because this is it. He has to produce, and so if he has, and if you want to judge him whether he can produce, you have to support him. So hopefully we'll learn more about who's coming in, especially in the striker position, in the next few weeks. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any comments about what you heard or what you would like to hear in future videos, let me know in the comments below. And also, please like and subscribe, as this helps other people find this content. Thank you so much.